What's going on, fellow YouTubers? My name is Richie Trotter, and if you've never visited my channel before, I'm a musician, singer, artist, whatever you want to call me. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I have a band called Richie Trotter and the Motor Company, and I run that and record a lot of the stuff for it. Sometimes I get my buddies to play with me, but recently there was Sweetwater did a competition for a Def Leppard cover song from their Pyromania album, and we didn't end up winning it, but I did a cover of a Def Leppard song that I thought I did a pretty good job, and I'm proud to have it out there for y'all to go check out. And if you haven't seen it or heard it yet, I'll put a link to it in the description, and I'll link to it in the video afterwards. But yeah, we decided to cover, I say we, meaning just me really, but decided to cover the song Foolin. If you don't know me, Def Leppard is one of my favorite bands, and when I wanted to put my own music out, I wanted it to sound like, a modern Def Leppard, with the production and everything. And I'm also a huge Tom Petty fan and wanted my songwriting to resemble his stuff, but Def Leppard's always been one of my favorite bands, and I love the sound of the big harmonies, the big guitars, the solos, and everything. They're just awesome. So let's dive into the song and, see what y'all think, and hopefully you learn something along the way. But this is how I went about it and how I did my version of Foolin'. I'm just going to play from the intro through the first chorus, and then we'll start diving into the different parts.
So lend your love to me a while. Do with me what you will. Break the spell, take your fill. On and on we rode the storm. The flame has died and the fire is gone. Oh, this empty minutes at night alone. I realize that long ago. Is anybody out there? Anybody there? Does anybody wonder? Anybody care? Oh, I just gotta know if you're really there, and you really care. 'Cause baby, I'm not fooling. I'm fooling. Fooling. I'm fooling. Won't you stay with me a while? Whoa.
Alright, so let's get into this. As you can see, I like to be pretty organized when I record everything, and I have, every time I record something, my own stuff, covers, songs for other people, I just like to organize it in the same way I do every time, so it keeps it very simple when I go back to edit things. Color coding is big for me. So let's just start from how I record the song from top to bottom. I started with bringing the original track in here, so oops, didn't mean to hit that. And just to get the kind of the layout of the song, get a general tempo. Their tempo fluctuated a bit more than mine, but I set my click up, and when I play drums, I go weave in and out of that metronome anytime I play anyways. And drums is my primary instrument and what I feel strongest about, and second probably being vocals. But so I made sure I set my click up just right, and then I kind of used that original track, to just get a sense of how long the verses were in pre-chorus, chorus, all that stuff, to just know how the layout of the song would be. and then I kind of mapped it out. So I have, what would that be, like about 4 bars of intro, 3 bars of intro, 4-bar acoustic, and it's pretty standard after that: 8-bar verse, 8-bar verse, 8-bar pre-chorus, 8-bar second pre-chorus, chorus, etc., etc. And I might have also gone in with like an acoustic guitar and just sang a scratch vocal just for the general layout of the song. I like to do that sometimes too when I record, is, play the chords of the song on the guitar and just sing along, so I know, have something to follow when I start putting the other instrumentation on. Because when you're not playing with the band, all doing it at the same time, it's a bit more difficult. You gotta know the arrangement, and it helps to just have that vocal going the whole time, so you know exactly where you are in the song when you're like adding the drums and the guitars and bass and all that to it. So after I did the scratch vocal and playthrough, let me just close some of these out because it's a lot of tracks. The next thing I think I did was play these acoustic guitar parts, and I learned a trick from another YouTuber, Dr. Bobby Huff. He's got a lot of cool Mutt Lange and Jeff Lynne tricks, which I love especially because, like I said, I'm a huge Def Leppard, Tom Petty fan, and Mutt Lange produced Def Leppard, AC/DC, tons of big hits, Shania Twain, obviously, and he's one of my favorite producers, so any kind of knowledge I can get from someone about the stuff he did to get the sounds he did, I eat it all up. So this is one of those tricks. I took the acoustic guitar part. I'll let you listen to the main parts. So what I did, let me take off the effects right quick so you can hear it just dry. So the trick is that you play through the part as much to get the least amount of string noise in between. Like if you had to slide up to different parts, that it gets real annoying and you start to lose your focus. You start focusing on those bad noises instead of, the actual guitar part. So I would play through it one time, do 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 do, and then let it ring out. And then I would stop the click and then go play the second half of that, which I can do it in the acoustic here. This is probably out of tune, but you can get a general idea of what I was going for. Yeah, this is definitely out of tune. That's so out of tune, I don't even want to play it anymore. I'm not going to worry about tuning it up, but anyways. So you play through one part, let it ring out. Then play through the second part, let it ring out, and then you bring them in here and, shorten it up and make sure it fits in the time, and then just copy and paste from there. And so I did that on the acoustics, and then I have what they call a Nashville strung acoustic guitar up there. It's got a octave higher strings on the first 4 string, the E, A, D, G, and then the B and the E are normal strings. But that adds some like high-end presence to those acoustic guitars to really help them cut through the mix. So those are right here. I was playing with the, normal acoustic guitar tuning. But as I played that, I noticed that there was, if you go back and listen to the original, there's a real, like, boom, boom, like hitting the root notes of the chords. So by itself, I recorded just the acoustics playing those notes. Just to really accent those notes and make sure they weren't getting lost in the sound of everything. So here's what the acoustics sound like all together again through that part. the acoustic part, and like I said, you know, had to do some copying and pasting. I'd rather just play it all the way through, but it really helps eliminate all those squeaking sounds you get from, you know, running your hand up and down on the guitar. And then same thing for this part right here, but actually in the turnaround there's a slightly different part, and I'm not sure that I played it exactly right, but you played it to the best of my ability, and that sounds something like this. I'll let it lead into the normal acoustic part as well. And that let me turn these effects back on. Well, it sounds cool. I'll leave them on. It does that same thing at on the outro as well. It sounds like this. Yeah, so that ends the song right there. And let's see, next I probably did the drums because, like I said, I primarily began as a drummer and feel most comfortable playing the drums. And I'll show you how I did that. I have my drum set back here mic'd up. It's got 2 overheads, a hi-hat mic, a snare mic, 4 toms, and my kick drum, and trusty old cowbell over there, which you had to have cowbell. They used that a few times on this album, this song, Photograph. And, you know, cowbell's just awesome. There's not enough of it anymore these days, and, you know, it's always got to be there. So let's listen to the kick sounds I had. You know, when the drum set first comes in, it's got a little cymbal swell into it that I just, you know, when I was done with all recording the drums, I just did one big crash and took those and reversed them so it sounds like this.
What you will.
Here we go, sorry about that. And then that leads right into the drum part, but we'll play that the full part now. I don't know why these are muted. That seems weird to me. Must be a reason. Anyways. Alright, so solo up all the drums. With that swell into it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boring part right now, but it gets better. Trust me. So, like I said, I just played through it one time. I think let's see, I had to edit some stuff right in here, but what I started doing recently is instead of just using the kick and snare sounds I get from the microphone, I run it in Logic. You can do a, what you gonna call it? You have to go here. Here it is. In the track section at the top menu, you can go to replace or double the drum track. So I do that, and when I doubled it, I ran it through Steven Slate Drums 5. I've had that for a while, and I've got a drum kit in there that I used to record on with my electric kit. It would just trigger the MIDI through that, and I found the sounds that I love to use every time. And, you know, I've got a kick drum sound, and I did the same thing with the snare drum, and I just took those sounds and blended them in with the actual recording of the kick and snare over here, and didn't do any compression on, which surprises me, but I did on the overall drum track compress it and added a limiter, and then on the full drum set, which includes the overheads in it, I compressed that as well. But just the shells, I also run through a parallel drum compressor where it just adds a lot of attack and punch to it. I'll show you what that sounds like. Let me just solo up the drums right here. Here's my parallel drum track. And also of late, I've started to clip a lot of things and just limit the crap out of them. But especially on the parallel drums, you want them super limited so they're adding a bit more to it, but not like overwhelming the mix. So I also on this one, I don't typically do this, but I added my tom-toms and I did the same thing. I doubled the drum track on the toms into MIDI and triggered some Steven Slate drums that I blended into taste. And we'll just see what that sounds like right here. Because without those the extra tom, the MIDI toms, it doesn't sound super great. It might sound better without the real toms, to be honest, but I like to blend them in. We'll have some of the real sounds and some of the, sampled sounds. And another thing I've been doing lately is to get a much cleaner sound. These microphones are pretty hot, and they can pick up the other toms getting hit in them, and the cymbals and stuff, and it just gets to be a washy mess. So I go in, and just every individual tom note, as you can tell here, I cut it, and you do some fades in and fades out, so it's just as clean as possible and gets the best drum sound possible. And I do that through the whole song, and it takes a lot of work, but trust me, without it, it doesn't sound very good. It just sounds like a hot mess. So that's the drums and the cymbals all right there. You can hear what they all sound like again. But not a whole lot to it. Like I said, compression, some EQing to take out some of those low mids, and the real high ping and the snare drum, it gets annoying. I should start recording with some tape like the Beatles did, and everybody does in the studio. Alex Van Halen, I hear he did that with a special triangle under the batter head. But that's my drum sound. It's always evolving and hopefully always getting better. After that, I did the bass part, which also has some synth bass in there, but I'll cover that part with the when I get to the synths after the bass. After the electric guitars, I'd say. So the bass part, I just recorded. I use an HX Stomp, and a good friend of mine that I play with in downtown Nashville, he had a cool setting that he let me, talk me through it and, work through my HX Stomp, which looks like this, if you can see it, yeah. So I just use that anytime I record bass because it sounds so good. I also did the electric guitars through my HX Stomp through another setting I have that I love, and it just sounds like a heavy electric guitar. I don't know a whole lot about guitar tones and bass tones, but I'm learning because I really want to be a better guitar player. But if something sounds good to me, I'm going to use it and make it work. But this is the bass guitar tone I had. Turn that parallel drum right. So that's the bass part. For this, like I said, I just record through that pedal, and you can hear a lot of distortion. I put some EQ on there, add a little bit of 100 to, sit above the kick drum, and then some 2000 hertz where you get the plucky and that little bit high end, so it cuts through the mix a bit better. And then I like to add a lot of compression to it. Doing an 8-to-1. I think this is like the Logic bass compression settings, and also add a limiter to it and some soft distortion, because distortion helps the bass cut through the mix as well. And then it looks like I experimented going back and forth with Infinity Bass from Slate Digital, and I ended up liking it on the full bass and bass synth track and not just the bass. But since the synth bass is here, let's take a listen to it as well in this next section. So that part only happens in the first pre-choruses. The "Is anybody out there?" Those parts, and so synth is probably my least the thing I'm least good at doing. I'll be honest. Like, keyboards are difficult, but I just hearing all these synth parts. What I found was I found a YouTube video online where they used AI to, you know, extract out all the synth parts from the song, and then I just did my best to go in and find sounds through different means. But a lot of it was, these are all printed out, but if you look at the hidden tracks on here, instead of having MIDI everywhere eat up my CPU usage, so I print them out to audio files. But on the MIDI tracks, I would use a couple of things: retro synth from Apple, the Anatu from Slate, and just try and recreate all these sounds that it's Thomas Dolby that recorded on this stuff. She blinded me with science. That guy, and he's a hell of a keyboard player and synth, artist, really. And Mutt Lange loved to use him, but I just did my best to try and recreate all the sounds that they had on this, because it seemed like there was 100 of them. But we can hear what this sounds like. This is, like I said, I heard it from the AI extracted synth track and just tried to recreate it, but this is what they all sound like together. So we got the bass synth down here. Strings synth, I called it. Alright, and then this high synth. And the lead part. And also in the intro, I heard these like kind of breathing sounds. So I found a synth effect that just sounded like some air. You hear right here. And I also decided to actually like take a breath in there, because it seemed like you could hear Joe Elliott breathing with a like ton of delay and reverb on it and leading into the song. So I put those in together. And that's a big part of that lead synth, is the lean in, the single note, pitch bends going into stuff. And then I had synth voices, is like, it sounded like kind of like people singing, but it was definitely a synth that they were using. Yeah, it sounds really cool when it's all playing together, but it's, like I said, you have to really orchestrate that stuff and really know what you're doing. It's an art in itself, just setting those synths up. It's almost like, arranging an orchestra, getting all these sounds to create a landscape in the music. But it worked out, and I was pretty happy with how I did with that, trying to recreate that part. Uh, so after that, we'll get to the electric guitars in this mix. And I'll say the synths was the hardest part for me for sure, but you can hear my tone. I've got a Les Paul and a Jackson guitar. They're both very cheap, but work for me, and I record all my stuff with it that I play on, and you can hear the HX stomp and that certain electric guitar tone setting, like heavy rock guitar that I like. I think it's called Placator Dirt, something like that, but you can see what you think of the sound. And then in this second pre-chorus part, there's like a little guitar part that you hear. It's like, ba-da-da-da-da. I can just play it for you. This part right here. It sounded to me like in the original, I don't think they were like hitting the chords and then playing that part. It sounded like its own thing. I don't know if they were using their Rockmans yet at this point, but it just sounded like some kind of other guitar that had a whole different tone. And let's see how I set it up here. We'll open the lead guitar parts up. Here we go. Yeah, I put a little delay on it I recorded one time and then put a delay so it like kind of spaced it out where the right side's a little later, but it just sounds like one guitar, mixed really wide. Put a chorus effect, some EQ to cut out all the lows and boost this 2500 part so it like cut through the mix a bit better over the rhythm guitars. I put a flanger on it just to give it that different sound, and kind of compressed it as well and limit it, all that stuff, just to help it poke out of the mix and not get washed away with the other guitars. But we'll hear all of them together again. Yeah, so it's pretty subtle, but it's all in their version, so I wanted to put it in this one as well. But that was the guitars, just playing through them. I know I didn't play them perfectly, so these are probably edited and bounced down to just single tracks, but is what it is. And next we'll go to the lead guitar part, which was probably the second hardest thing for me to play after all those synths. But let's do it this way. I still use that same setting and just turn, the overdrive and the quarter note delay on and all that, so you can hear what it sounds like. So that was the lead guitar. My favorite part to play was this, what I call the motorcycle part in the middle of it. You can hear in the original it goes boom, and that was fun to do on my Jackson with my floating bridge. Just listen to it real quick. Yeah, but that was the lead guitar part. Like I said, it's nothing fancy. Just try to imitate Phil Collins on that and do my best version. And now we'll do the vocals, which I think's some of the most important parts of Def Leppard stuff, especially. But Some of my favorite stuff and what I'm most proud of, because I, grew up, never knew how to sing, and over the years have been practicing, figuring it out, and just doing my best to, sound like my rock and roll heroes. So the hardest part was this first line. I don't know why, but it just seemed like I couldn't get it in tune, and I didn't use any tuning on this. You could see, let me bring this up, because they didn't have tuning back then, and I was, going to do my damnedest not to use it. So, like all modern music has these days, I don't want it. I want to keep it rock and roll, but here's what it sounds like.
Lady luck never smiles, so lend your love to me a while.
Let me turn off all these effects real quick.
Do with me what you will. Break the spell, take your fill. On and on we run the storm. The flame has died and the fire is gone. On this empty bed is a night alone. I realized that long ago. Is it?
Alright, so I found another one from Dr. Bob, and I've seen a couple guys do this, but this lead vocal trick, I thought the vocal sounded good by itself, but it just seemed to be missing something, and there's this, what is it called, an Eventide harmonizer, like the H3000 that a lot of people use since like the 2000s, I would say, but I think back then they had a different device that they would use, but it just kind of like widen out the lead vocal and give it some character more than just being, just the dry vocal with a bunch of effects. And essentially what I did was take my part that I sang through this whole thing and copied it down to 4 times. So I did it on 4 different tracks. Each track, so this first one I drug back by, like, you can see I drug it back by just a smidge, but it's about, 10 milliseconds, I would say. And then each track I went back 10 milliseconds. And on top of that, to each one, I added a pitch shifter. So this first one, it's panned hard left, and I pitched it up 6 cents. The second one's panned hard right, and I pitched it down 6 cents. The next one was hard left, which would be this way for y'all. And I pitched it down 12 cents, and then the right side up 12 cents. So essentially they're going, back and forth. So it's balanced that way, and it gives it a cool sound. So we'll listen to it dry again, and then I'll listen to it with the with this vocal trick.
Lady luck never smiles.
With the vocal trick.
Lady luck never smiles.
It almost sounds like a reverb or something, but it's kind of, you can tell it's doing something there, and in the mix it's not as noticeable, but you trust me, you notice it when it's not there. Let's to the mix without it, and then with it.
Lady luck never smiles.
Let's put these vocal effects back on as well. I guess the snare verb doesn't matter, but here we go.
Lady luck never smiles, so lend your love to me a while.
Trick again.
Lady luck never smiles, so lend your love to me a while.
You hear what I'm saying? It just seems like it adds like a roomy reverb type thing. There's something there that it's just a little bit more, and it gives it more character, and it just sounds cooler. But that's the first trick I did. And then, once this track hits right before the pre-choruses, a doubled vocal comes in. So I just went back through and sang all the doubled vocal parts and, tried to match them up as best I could. And I'll show you what those sound like all together.
I realized that long ago. Is anybody out there?
Let's lead up to it right quick.
This empty bed is a night alone. I realize that long
Gotta have those vocal doubles. That's like a classic rock and roll thing. Ozzy Osbourne, all his stuff is doubled vocals, and that's how he's got his sound. And then the harmony vocals come, and boy, there's a lot of harmony vocals on here. We'll just listen to this pre-chorus, well, with where the vocals are in it. And how did I organize these? So I did a lot of the vocals straight up the center, and some of them I panned left and right and then put them way down the mix, but just to like kind of fill out the sound more so they weren't, totally up the center. But you'll hear how they sound. I sang everything twice on each side, let's see. I did 4 vocals up the center of the same thing, and then 4, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and it took a while. I think I had to take a break for a few days and then come back, or take a break one day and then come back the next day and do some more. But this is what it sounds. These sound like all together.
Is anybody out there? Anybody there? Does anybody wonder?
All right, so you can hear these 4 are just a double of the lead vocal melody.
Is anybody out there?
I'll put it in so you can hear it with it.
Is anybody out there?
And these 4 are the same thing, just pan left and right.
Is anybody out there?
Like I said, I got them turned way down so you don't notice it as much. And then there's just one harmony to that, so these are singing that part.
Is anybody out there?
And then another trick I learned from Dr. Bob is to add these whisper vocals that it sounds like a stadium full of people going, is anybody out there? You'll hear what I mean. But that just ties them all together and makes all the vocals like just blend a bit better and adds a lot of high end to them that gives a that Def Leppard-y sound. You hear what I mean?
Is anybody out there? Anybody there?
So we'll hear the vocals without the whispers.
Is anybody out there?
Now with them.
Anybody there? Does anybody? Is anybody out there? Is anybody out there?
Yeah, that's cool. I like that trick. I use it on all my stuff. Anytime I'm doing a bunch of harmony vocals, I put those whispers in there. And the last thing to add that Def Leppard type sound is this Type A plug-in. I like to throw it in, and I guess back in the day to remove tape saturation when they recorded a tape, they used this plug-in, or not a plug-in, obviously, an actual device. And they figured out, if they reverse engineered it, it gives a lot of high end and presence to the vocals that just sounds awesome. Apparently, Def Leppard used it. Queen, Mutt Lange was a big proponent of it, so I throw that in on everything, and you can hear the difference. Here, we'll listen without it.
Is anybody out there?
And now with it.
Is anybody out there?
It just adds a lot of high end clarity. I love it. I put that on everything too, on my harmonies. I mean, but yeah, that was it. The second pre-choruses is just a single harmony to the main vocal.
Oh, I just gotta know if you're really there.
So I just doubled my vocal and panned it straight up the center for that. Do this as well.
And you really care, 'cause baby I'm not
Go here and listen to all these vocals.
fooling. I'm fooling. Fooling.
So I think here in the chorus too, there's just 2 melody lines, so it's not as difficult, as if there were 3 different melody lines. You gotta sing them all, but it still sounds cool all the same. Let's hear these. So that's just doubling the main vocal. Yeah. Yeah, so it's just kind of the same thing, and then just doing that in each and every chorus, and actually at the end, I think, it changes a little bit in the last one. I'm not fooling myself, I'm not fooling myself. We can go listen to those vocals back there.
I'm not fooling myself. I'm not fooling myself.
So we'll hear what each part's doing right here.
I'm not fooling myself.
That's the first part.
I'm not fooling myself.
Second part. This one actually has 3 parts.
I'm not fooling myself.
And then those whisper vocals as well.
I'm not fooling myself. I'm not fooling myself.
Sorry, my computer's being wonky because taking up too much CPU is not so powerful. But yeah, that's pretty much everything in this track. It's a lot of little things coming together for the big picture. On the vocals, each one I compress and individually, and then compress them all together so they're all tight together. And I added that Type A plugin on the background harmonies. I don't think I did it. Oh, I did do it on the lead vocal, but not on the trick vocal and the vocal double, because I don't want the double to stick out. I wanted to just add more presence to it. And then I parallel compress it. Let's see, I put a background vocal verb as well in these background vocals that is like a reverse reverb, and they created a setting from Dr. Bob, and these muttling reverse harmonies. You kind of hear what it sounds like.
Fooling myself. I'm not fooling myself.
Without it.
I'm not fooling myself.
With it.
I'm not fooling myself.
Yeah, it sounds really good. And then I also ran all the vocals to their own bus over here and just compressed them all together with the lead vocal, so they all, felt like it was being sung all together. And then I limited them so they're, keep the same volume. A lot of compression these days in music, and keep them on the same level and just not poking out at all, and just sounds like it's right in the mix, and doesn't poke out, but it doesn't get lost in it with all the other stuff that's going on in the mix. So let's listen to the last chorus with everything in, even these vocals, delay verb, a slap. Let's listen to this slap on here.
I'm fooling. I'm fooling.
I guess there was no slap in the chorus.
Oh, I just gotta know if you're really there.
Yeah, I find that there's a lot of slap delay in the classic rock songs as well, and stereo delays, and a little verb on this one. And I also like to put those background vocals into that slap delay as well. I think you could hear that. Let's try it in the chorus.
I'm fooling.
Now you hear that in the stereo delay. Let's listen to the pre-chorus.
Close your eyes. Anybody out there? Yeah.
You hear it right there. It's just kind of fills in the gaps for the songs where the instruments aren't doing much, and just adds some more to that mix. It keeps those vocals in your mind. But yeah, let's listen to this last chorus into the outro chorus. So there you have it. That's my version of Foolin' that I made for my band, Richie, Trotter, and the Motor Company. Go check it out now on YouTube, on our channel. Subscribe to this page if you want to see more videos like this where I break down. I might do some more breakdowns of my own songs and other covers I've done. And, you know, I'm going to be doing some more covers. After tackling this Mutt Lange song, I have a Mutt Lange a Mutt Lange medley that I'm currently working on that I'll be hopefully putting out by Christmas as a Christmas gift to myself and to all of y'all out there on YouTube. But thanks for hanging out, watching. Follow me, follow my band, Richie Trotter and the Motor Company. Go stream this song, watch our music video, and yeah, subscribe for more. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.